Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day, and I'm going to make a video for my own safety about the movie about Winnie the Pooh and the honey tree that was made in 1966, 4 years after the world's biggest earthquake in Chile. Yeah, this is a joke about world ownership and about the PUKAs that appear all over popular culture, and as I will explain as I go through this video, I will make more sophisticated ones with better images, but as I say, there's a severe risk that I will be killed for revealing these secrets. Okay, what we've got here is a series of plays about the episodes that allow us to watch for free on YouTube. Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, 1966, part 1 of 3. These are censored already, as you'll see in a minute or two. Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, 1966, part 2 of 3. You can watch the third one, and I've done that earlier this morning. The first two are about the genocides and the killing of all of the people in World War II, and the links to Hollywood and the popular culture and the Celtic legends that take you back into the PUKAs that are behind these stories. That's the PUKAs that launch the Harvey film with James Stewart in Hollywood. I've got graphic images that explain the launch of that and the coincidence of the birth of Harvey Rothschild into our brutalized world. Yeah, it is sick, sick, sick. Watch what happens when I try to play it. So Winnie the Pooh, 1966, part 1 of 3. Let's ask it to play all. And out of guilt, they may allow us to watch it this time. The last time you just get the censored message, like every one of the true news items on why World War II was created by the Rothschilds, entirely for profit for the world's elites and their monarchs all over Europe. Uncle Sam in America means that even from the biblical days, that America is obliged to be somewhere that lives without a king. That's why the Empire State still pay the taxes to Queen Elizabeth II, years and years after Eric the Red discovered America. And that was not even Christopher Columbus's work. Christopher Columbus is part of this joke about the false religion that is Christianity, that has killed every pagan across the globe over 2,000 years. So it's quite serious, and that's why they censor it now. Yeah, the PUKA is the rabbit and has now become the Easter bunny. All of it driven by the Rothschilds' money stream, entirely for greed and to keep the numbers of the poor people down on their vast tracts of land. Let's try and play all. Now I need to move back, because if I make a video in my own living room close up, it could be blocked for. So that says video contains content from Disney, who has blocked it on copyright grounds. This is my own living
bear. Here, give me a paw.
So 1 and 2 are blocked because they reveal the role of the honey tree and the air balloon joke that Lily Allen laughs at about Jesus going into orbit on his crucifix. That the woman Sheryl Crow, not the American Indian that would have been culled like all the other Indians, but Sheryl Crow, the woman who gets a breast cancer and sings the song about her, and Sting, who sings about the vast fields of gold being picked to play the game in the liberation of the world. None of them are up to it, which is why she gets the cancer, and one of her tits is made in Silicon Valley, which is very near to the Warner Brothers frauds, and the Warner Brothers are Nazis and were moved into California like Arnie Schwarzenegger from Austria, where the death camps were. Can you see why the censor is required frequently by this team? Okay, here we go.
Oh, it's no use. I'm stuck.
So he's consumed the honey, and there is the fucking Easter bunny girls joke, looking ever so penitent and innocent, yeah? And the whole of these cast are explained as war criminals, admirals, field marshals. All of them appear in the Dad's Army jokes. All of them appear in the Personal Services movie about the cover-ups using sexuality and prostitution for the massive war crimes that I'm about to describe. Yeah? So you're only allowed to see the end of the joke. But I now understand from yesterday's reading, and I watched the Harvey movie last night. The Harvey movie is about God talking to humans, yeah, and how it takes people ages to realise the value of innocence and friendliness, and God, when he talks to the humans, passes that message on to people, and when the people get that message, they put them in a straitjacket and a privately owned care home, and they get solicitors to move in and talk about the damage that that person, the innocent person who likes to be everybody's friend, has done. They are not able to do that now that I'm able to make the videos before they make the accusations. Yeah, I need to tell you that Dr. X is a man from Melrose, and Dr. Y is Dr. Fingland, trained as a policeman before he trained as a medic. He's the man who wrote to me to try and get me sectioned. It is just not funny. Yeah, it's entirely for profit, and the people that put down the one true God are in a really dangerous place now, and the Church of Scotland crimes are particularly vicious. Yeah, it's because I'm a local boy. I'm being stoned because I'm challenging all of these religious myths, and they become children's stories. And my auntie's name, who's the Church of Scotland profiteer, is Anne Lees, now Anne Curry, and her husband is the man, my uncle, who's now got the diabetes, and the profiteer from the Church of Scotland since he was booted out of Deirdre Hutton's Borders Health Board. Yeah, he's been persecuted by the Huttons who run the Las Vegas military tattoo, and none of that gets censored. But when you manipulate the kids' stories like the people did at Light Entertainment BBC, making the Andy Pandy movies about Teddy coming along in the death camp suits, and all of the vicious jokes about Dr. Finlay and the Zionist Empire that were already releasing their propaganda even before they read the news. That's the Zebedee joke. And Brian the snail then becomes the Messiah when the pythons share the joke. Okay, they censor it now because it's ever so sensitive, because it becomes a series of vicious war crimes. And I've explained how the Rothschilds still have the holdings where they have their European pan-continental frauds, and I'm going to take you into the ski resorts very soon, which is part of the censorship story. Okay, so there's the Easter bunny that has now become a theological icon for the merchandising and the selling of the chocolate eggs that are supposed to be the joke about the rolling away of Jesus' stone. And that is the launch of the Rolling Stones jokes about the genocide in Vietnam, which is why they have to censor it now, and we're only allowed to watch part 3 of 3 because the crimes have already been committed and the fat cats are unable to escape to the havens, which I will explain to you on the other computer, which buzzes like the bees from Melrose and the busy bees in the Gladiator film. It's really funny, and yellow and black are officially their colours in the Rothschild cowardice genocidal section. and also, by coincidence, creamy Telford's Melrose Rugby Club colours. And I think I've told you the story about the bank manager in fascist Black Dunedin who came from Melrose to be my bank manager as I removed all of my assets from New Zealand, which my wife is now claiming from me. My wife worked for the Care at Otago University and the Carter, who's on the board of Ernst & Young. And it's not at all funny, but it is a children's movie, now heavily censored for war criminality reasons. Okay? And the registration of the Rothschilds that was in, it was not The Hague, it was one of the war crimes inquests places, but I can't remember for the life of me which one it was. The name of the horse that died on the weekend was Tiptoe Away. Yeah, a lot of them are now doing that. They realise the risk of being a traitor to your country and your country's children. All of them in the profiteering sector are now in that perilous place, and they're stuck in the fucking hole. Yeah, that's the foxhole. That's the fascist jokes. Everything they make about fascism and world ownership becomes a joke at the dead's expense. Right then, I'm going to read this out to you, and I'm going to make another video this evening at higher resolution for the images. Let me just take you through the images and then I'll tell you the story from them. So there's the Puck Shakespeare bunny rabbit Harvey joke from Wikipedia. The PUKA is a disambiguation. That's a posh word I don't understand. But the PUKA, Irish for spirit, ghost, becomes PUKA, FUKA, kind of like fucka, but I'm not allowed to say that. FUKA, FUKA, PUKA or puck. And when my mum and dad went to Greece, where the earliest civilization were, they used to laugh about the joke about the PUKA pies. They do not understand what they are laughing at. It is a tragedy in world history that the whole world is like that, and the Harvey movie is seen as innocent by the free world. That's James Stewart, the man from It's a Wonderful Life movie, having a joke about the war dead and about Puck in Shakespearean writing and Irish folklore, and it's in Welsh mythology. Let's keep going. Considered to be the bringers both of good and bad fortune, like Lucky Luciano, the Norse god. That's Lucky, the good and bad fortune god from the Valkyrie stories. They could either help or hinder rural and marine communities, sinking ships. You're beginning to see it? The fairy castle on Skye is an extension of the PUKA pies joke and the PUKA and Puck in the Midsummer Night's Dream in the Shakespearean elite writing sector. That's why I've entitled this section of what will become a PDF in all of my published works, PUKA, Puck, Shakespeare, Bunny Rabbit, Easter Bunny, Harvey jokes. Okay? Considered to be bringers both of good and bad fortune, they could either help or hinder rural and marine communities. The creatures were said to be shape changers, which could take the appearance of black horses for the Lloyds Banking Group or the sign at the pub in Bree, goats, which are the Masonic icons for the whole of the brutalised world, £250 a year to keep your friends in the underworld, and rabbits, which are the icons for the theological celebration of Easter, where the rolling stone is the fucking Easter egg, and the Rolling Stones sing about Vietnam and naked children being defoliated and deprived of their skin by the weapons that were launched from Britain. I used to work for a man called Dr. Potter at Rothamsted, which has now been defamed as a menace to the Greens. Yeah, because what they are experts in, and I used to be an expert in, are the nerve gases that were used in the trenches in World War I, but the leaders that made those decisions were not folklore, they were actually fascists. And the creators of all these stories, because the PUKA is also big ears and noddy, shared with Beaverbrook's. Ah, shit, they've crashed my computer. Isn't that? Oh no, it's just an accident. Okay, let's keep going, because it's going to take a lot of time, and the pictures that I will give you in the next video are going to be much more impressive, because I'm going to put them on my website and make them pan-continental and really embarrassing for world leaders. Considered to be bringers both of good and bad fortune, they could either help and hinder rural and marine communities. Shape changers, the appearance of black horses, goats and rabbits. Yeah, do you get it? The bunny girls, all of the jokes about the Busby babes, all of the jokes and all of the cover-ups about Stock's house where Mr. Harris now lives being owned by Victor Lowndes, and the Bunny Girls empire, and all of the stuff that went along the road in Watford when they were covering up the Cold War, involving that woman that lived in Wraysbury where they had the massive floods. Forget what her name was. She sleeps with the spies in Elton John's Watford so that they can continue with all of their financial crimes. That's the Goldfinger movie, okay? And this one explains the film about North by Northwest. They may also take a human form, which includes various animal features such as ears or a tail. You remember the monkey in Jumanji? The joke about the Warner Brothers being loosed into shoe manufacturing companies in California that then turned into the jungle. Yeah, and the little boy grows a tail that comes out the back of his coat. If you watch the Harvey movie, which will be censored really quickly, you will see that the hat that the monkey wears in the pub with the man who's threatened with being put in the straitjacket by his profiteering family, yeah, it is absolutely vicious that the honest people of the world are abused and defamed, and all of the tyrants get away with murder and genocide, and the children's toys become the iconic figures for that. So, such as ears or a tail, the PUKA has counterparts throughout the Celtic cultures of North by Northwest Europe. For instance, in Welsh mythology, it is named the PWCA. That's the Young Man's Christian Association equivalent. PricewaterhouseCoopers Association. Isn't it funny that the financial criminals can laugh with the kids? And when my Auntie Anne was a guide master, before I became aware of the sinister connection to the training of the paramilitaries and the brownies being the goblins on the church roofs or the pukas in popular culture, and when you see it being shared with the propaganda in the Daily Express that takes Britain to war because they warmonger against the false religions all of the time, that is why I never intend to speak to my Auntie Anne again. I will attend silently her funeral, and I now totally understand why she had a heart attack as she travels around the whole country on the free buses that my children have to pay for. And her children are married into the Kemp financial dynasty, and they intend to go back to South Africa and continue to steal from them. And all of that is explained in the Out of Africa movie, where the whole of South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa actually belongs to the Crown. Even the Blixens and the Blue Bloods in South Africa could not win that battle, but Robert Redford makes it look ever so romantic, like the Watergate case, which is just a cover for Nixon's war crimes in Vietnam, where the Rolling Stones are the Easter egg. Okay, the next bit is the launch of the Christian pulpit. Okay, It is named PWCAA in Cornish, the PUKA. Yeah, I've got the Cornish directors for the Rothschilds on the next slide I'm going to show you. The PUKA in the Channel Islands, where the Jeddah registration was mistaken for the Jersey registration of the owner of the horse Tiptoe Away, which died gently after it won the race on the weekend. Thank you to the gods for the messages about where I need to do my next investigation on how to take the world back to decency. Okay, so the pulpit joke. In the Channel Islands, French, a cromlech is referred to as a pukale or poulpit. Yeah, if you take the eek out of that, or the ike out of that, you get pulpit. Do you get it? Now the pulpit is no longer used in the Church of Rome, because what they've got in the Church of Scotland is a limping crisis that means that only the fit and honest and thinking vicars can get up the pulpit. But David Curry can get up there at the moment, and he has not even got a limp. He's got a massive belly hanging over his belt, but he owns the private care homes, and the private care homes owner that used to be the Queen's house owned by the public fainted in the Church of Scotland a couple of months ago. The vicars and the Church of Rome people are far worse off than that. One of them died in the church, and they were given attention from dentists from Poland, who made the mistake of sitting him upright in the chair when his fainting attack could have saved his life. I'm very fond of that Polish woman, and she doesn't understand the gravity of her input to that person, but I know that the whole thing was a message from the gods, like the falling down of the candles and the hymn numbers when the hymn numbers read 666. There are 66 chapters in the Christian Bible, and part of this story was the making of the Wininie the PUKA and the honey tree in 1996, now censored for shame, because the characters in it are the genocidal world leaders and the traitors to their country. You cannot find it anywhere on the internet now except for part 3 of 3, and Eeyore is in it, and he goes Eeyore, 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 and I'm not aware of there being a cock that crows like the Party News cock that I exposed for you yesterday, that is the false news that keeps the world in this violent situation and keeps telling lies to it. Okay, so you get the pulpit joke, poulpit. Yeah, and to be piqued is to be offended in French, I believe, and the correspondent terms are in Brittany, where the Tom Hanks movie about Saving Private Ryan was made. In Normandy also, those beaches are covered with innocent blood. Okay, let's now take you to the PowerPoint images, which will be much better and will be published online this evening when I make the next video with the shocking images about the further declarations of how the world is stolen from. Okay, I'm gonna have to keep it away from that computer because this is the buzzy one, but that's the image, and what I've got on there is a series of disclosures from Company Check, and I'll read them out to you. Mr. Harvey Earl Rothschild, born 1950 when the movie was made. Harvey Earl Rothschild, Truro, 26 2AY 901 206 808. I've told you about the Paris, Texas movie and the costs of the cover-ups. There's James Stewart with the bunny rabbit in the movie called Harvey, which is a joke about the incarceration of a man that understands that there is a God, but the God is portrayed as the bunny, and that is the joke that is shared with Hitler's friends, which is this picture. That's Hitler and Eva Braun with Winnie the Pooh at the trough, sucking up the honey, and all of the honey traps that are deployed to make the politicians evil and coercible are explained in the earlier video I made about the European subsidiaries and the links to Free France, where they are desperately sad profiteers in every conflict, and they give up their country to these ruthless leaders from just across the border, and they make a joke about the registration of a company called Verdun. Okay, so we've got the Cornish connection, we've explained the pulpit, and there is a picture of the Shakespearean puck with Prince Charles's ears and the cloven hoofs. There is a picture of the bunny that lives in the Lewis Carroll movie about going under the wardrobe and under the mirror in your room. That's the Alice in Wonderland story. And the people that were killed on Coldstream Bridge by the serial killer from Yorkshire, they share the same names, and that's the ordinary working man that is involved in that. And the policeman saved the child. I do not know whether that is false news or whether it's real. But everything that they laugh at is the clue to the magnitude of their jokes. There's the Harvey movie, made in 1950, round about the time when one of the Rothschilds needed to introduce the name Harvey into their bloodline. Okay, and the linkages to the PUKA pies that my mum and dad enjoyed in Greece are vicious, and the cloven hoof and the devilish look of this person tells you the real story about why they're launched like the vampires, like Dracula, like Frankenstein, and like all of the stories about the children and the stakes through the heart that keep the world in fear right through the Cold War in the 1960s. That's in our local cinemas when we were eating KP nuts, the Calpurnio Piso icon, which at that time they had no reason to be fearful of about it being the straw that will break the world owners' camels' backs. Yeah, that is the Calpurnius Piso joke that becomes the pie joke, that becomes the horse and the hippo jokes and the out of Africa jokes. Yeah, all of it is absolutely serious fraud, but it is also concomitant genocide. There is the fat bastard stuck in the hole. There is the bunny, which is Hitler's friend, trying to get him out into Latin America, where the new Pope comes from, friend of General Vidal, convicted of genocide, and the new Pope gave him confession and supports entirely the fascists all around him, deserts the innocent doctors and teachers who try and help the poor people who are killed en masse on their football stadium that is called Operation Condor and the Caravan of Death. And I've explained to you the linkages to Travis and the Paris, Texas movie, and the linkages of Texas and Texas University to Otago University through the Pfizer profiteering and Kurt Krause, who may not be a Nazi yeah, but is involved in profiteering in psychiatric drug campaigns, and the whole of the psychiatry sector is they put them in a straitjacket if they're innocent, like George III stories. Okay, and Hollywood totally twist it. All of the heroes become the villains, and all of the villains become the heroes, or the monarchs, or the money lenders, or the prime minister, and all of it is absolutely ruthless. Mr. Simon Michael Rothschild could not find very much on him that is sinister except the name of the Jewish angel in the middle, and Simon, I believe, was one of the apostles, and Simon of Cyrene. There's a Cyrene on the Rothschilds listings as the headquarters for one of their frauds. The next one is the Honourable Nathaniel Philip James Rothschild. He's got lords in his other titles. Guess where he is? St Swithins, SW1A1NP, director number 9087 24040. He's not registered as Alice in Wonderland. That's his real ID, known better as Natty. Next slide. I'm just going to make the next slide so it's not created yet. Nathaniel Philip Victor James Rothschild, Nameco Alternate 2 Limited, Ponzi Shelf 2. Nameco is ever so imaginative. Alternate is ever so deviant, because they're prepared to make thousands of Ponzi shells to launder your money all across Europe. Nameco Alternate 1 Limited, Atticus UK Services Limited. The people that get burnt in the attic are also part of the Jane Eyre story. Jainism is a false religion. Yeah, and all of that was launched by Jane Eyre in the Leeds Freemasons region. And Peter Eyre is a cover for all of that. His business is the dirty tricks business with Alan Bond, the munitions profiteer in Australia, the joker's place. Everybody in Australia has sold their soul when they pretend to be working men. What they are profiteers, and they're incapable for that reason of owning their own nation, in inverted commas. It's still the Queen's. Message Labs Groups Limited, INR, INRI is the inscription on Jesus' cross, and that's openly declared even today, but they're a little bit ashamed about the Ennius words on Jesus' cross, since I revealed that that is the suppression of the ordinary working man at Grangemouth. The next one is a little bit sinister in the connotation of the Cold War cover-ups, and the launch of Harvey the Rabbit into Hollywood culture. London and Russia Holdings PLC, Yad Hanadiv. We've talked about that in the Frank Bruno of the World Bank video that I made with John Patterson with 1T, which is now the sheriff at Jedburgh Court. Jedburgh Sheriff Patterson with 1T. That's Jedburgh Sheriff Court that is complicit in the war crimes of John Anthony Chilcot and Malcolm Rifkind, and in the crimes of G4S, who are now taking the jobs of every one of the Scottish and local policing all across Britain as they asset strip their pensions and their salaries using the commissioner joke. That is Katie Bourne in East Sussex, and it is Kenny McCaskill up here in Scotland until he was forced into resignation, because I make videos like this. The next company for Nathaniel Philip Victor James Rothschild is Atara UK Services Limited, Spark Advisory Partners Limited, RIT Capital Partners PLC. So there we have it. Nathaniel Philip Victor James Rothschild. He's a lord in other directories. Registered address House Shepa, Reedweg, 18 Clusters, CH 7250, Switzerland. That's where they made the Pink Panther movies with the illegitimate son of Lord Mountbatten, who was killed by Prince Philip, playing the lead role in the story about stealing gems from top secret and highly secure institutions in Switzerland. Registered details: short name Nathaniel Rothschild, year of birth 1971. In the papers recently, since I published his picture with his dad Jacob in my timeline of the world's biggest villains, they have pretended that he's fallen, poor young Natty, on hard times. Yeah, and Hannah, the bitch that makes friends with Tony Blair's genocidal spin doctors, has a lot of accounting to do when she meets her maker. Okay, I have a good sense of humour. I'd love to get a phone call from you, Hannah Rothschild, that thinks that the people that brutalised Iraq and Afghanistan for your shallow crimes are really, really funny and humorous. Director ID for young Natty, born 1971, is 908 724 040, and the listings of the people on his interlocking directorates cover the K character in the Godfather movies, the B ovary and the Madam Ovary jokes, because there's an ovary woman on the boards. Brian Gerrish, the freedom fighter, who has too many friends to let me join him on Facebook, is one of the interlocking directors. But he's not Brian, it's another villainous Gerrish. The resources that they deploy to cover up the news and the people that they plant into everything that is run by the CIA. I've explained to you that the CIA is the Central Intelligence Institution for America, and I explained to you that the Rothschilds now run the CIE Ponzi shelves. That's the Central Intelligence Agency Europe. Yeah, not many people know that unless you've watched the video I made yesterday. Yeah, Duke of Wellington is on the boards with Nathaniel Philip Victor James Rothschild. That's the man that won the Battle of Waterloo, and he has got the names Wellesley Wood into the massive number of hyphens that the Duke of Wellington now has to cover up his crimes in league with the Rothschilds in the globalised frauds. And the Wellesley Wood character is someone who's a friend of Gordon Bowden and Peter Ayres and now John Patterson's, because John Patterson believes every word that those quizzing little shills talk about. And I'm now revealing that if Greg Hallett is really alive, and what he's doing is launching Jesus 1 and 2 with no facts to cover up the crimes of the massive Piso frauds that own the world for 2,000 years, he's now talking to Jim Fetzer, who refused to talk about the massive religious frauds. That man Hallett, there's a Hallett registered in Zahawi's constituency of Stratford-on-Avon. That's Zahawi, the war criminal in Iraq and in Afghanistan, running his businesses from the House of Commons. Yeah, and what we've got is a Greg Hallett registered in his constituency, in the village, in the Stepping Stones Road that is the Bedford Falls joke. Everything for them is a laugh. Yeah, the Bedford Falls joke is that people really want innocent little financial companies that are there to build affordable homes for their people, but they get taken over by the financial magnates that run the world. Okay, so the Wellesley Wood joke is the joke about Duke of Wellington and all the hyphens in his current name. Sorry, I've been diverted into that again, but Greg Hallett is a Kiwi, and he knows that when Jim Fetzer was silenced, Jim Fetzer was prepared to accept everything I said on the massacre of the Anzac troops and the Mr. Bean joke being a joke shared at the London Olympics. Greg Hallett is a deeply insightful historian, but if he's changed sides to cover up the religious fraud and to cover up that Mr. Bean is the cover for Churchill's genocides of the Anzacs at Gallipoli, then he is a traitor to his country, unless that accent that he has is an accent that a body double is now using. Okay, the other Four Corners people, yeah, it's massive. They've got the head of Interpol is mentioned in the Four Corners story from Peter Ayre and Gordon Bowden, and it will take you a whole hour to listen to it, and it will lead you to Jackie Sabelli, the head of Interpol, and him getting jailed as a cover for all of these crimes of the world's owners. And the little people that work for them in the back news, in the false news cover-ups, the Gerishes, they should be ashamed of themselves. They're earning a salary to continue with the dismembering of the world. And the Wellesley Wood guy, when I asked Gordon Bowden, is he actually innocent, and he's making these movies to reveal how the world is run by criminals, Gordon said to me, no, he's part of the art. He's just another Ponzi shelf, and what they're talking about is the murders of these people in Australia. That's the false news sector that I've explained to you already. So, Nathaniel Rothschild, House Shepa, Rydwig, Clusters, CH 7250, Switzerland. Next slide. Rothschild and Partners Group LLC, registered address 113 Barksdale Professional Centre, Newark, Delaware, 1711, USA. That's where the Jews were dancing. The Delaware is the river that runs through New York, where the Twin Towers were brought down. Isn't that funny? The Delaware registration is Rothschild and Partners Group LLC. That's the individual, the director that runs it. It's not a fucking individual. It's the Rothschild and Partners Group LLC, which is why he does not have a year of birth, and his year of birth is unknown, because he's a laundering shelf. He's a massive institution run by the Rothschilds of Clusters in Switzerland, where the movies are made about the gems being stolen, and Greg Hallett and Jim Fetzer have a little argument about whether or not the actor in that is actually genuine, and they disagree on that. They understand it entirely. Rothschild and Partners Group LLC, 113 Professional Centre, Newark, Delaware, 19711, USA. Everything is in the numbers. Short name, Rothschild and Partners Group LLC. Year of birth unknown. Director ID 908 402 832. Edward Rothschild, registered address Strandvägen 47, Stockholm, Sweden. 111 45, that's 111 9. Registered address, so it goes on and on. So this is me just scanning down the lists of directors. It takes us into Sweden. And it takes us into Delaware, the first of the mainland American states to become a tax haven. And because they're the first ones, it makes you suspicious that they have really powerful owners, and you now understand who they are. Okay? Right then, I think I've done enough to secure my safety so I can walk on Scottish pavements again. And I am not going to relent. I'm going to keep pouring this news out, and all of my relatives who have been treasonous to me, like Uncle Gilbert Curry and Auntie Anne, the profiteers at Edinburgh City Council, the Church of Scotland, the Borders Healthcare profiteers with Deirdre Hutton, all of you are going to be shamed into a corner that it will be impossible to walk out from unless you make yourself decent and you declare why you are persecuting me in league with my profiteering wife. Okay? There may be another slide here, but I don't think so. Okay? This is work in progress, and I now intend to try and find the film. If you can find the film Wininie the Pooh, made in 1966, that reveals all of the jokes about Eeyore the donkey, which is Jesus, and all of the characters in it. The bunnies are Hitler's friends. That's the code, and the man that runs the whole fucking show is Fleming from the tax havens. Sir Ian Fleming, the Bond joker, and the war bond joke is not funny at all. That's the war bond joke made by Bing Crosby, turned into the Hogan's Heroes films and all of the movies about cross-border profiteering through every conflict that we have, imposed entirely by the Rothschilds, who need to deploy all of the resources of the world's media and Hollywood to cover their massive sins and genocides and martyrdom campaigns against innocent false religions. None of the messianic religions are true. I know there is a God in the skies, and you are beginning to learn it. Thank you, God, for revealing the jokes about Tiny Tim and the horsey sector and the born leisure people, and telling me the reasons for the death of that horse on the weekend. The horse's name was Tiptoe Away. Tiny Tim, who's mentioned in A Christmas Carol by Dickens. Yeah, and Errol Flynn is also an elite in Northampton, where the internment camp was for the Napoleonic victims in the aristocracy. Like Melrose, all of them fled to new territory. Their colours stay the same. That's yellow and black. And Creamy Telford's affiliation to the creme de la creme all across the Masonic people in Europe is vicious, which is why he is limping really badly the last time I saw him. He no longer risks living in Melrose. He lives on the outskirts of Galashiels, near the King's House Hotel, and near where Sir Walter Scott was a national traitor and killed returning troops every time they came back from conflicts on other continents. Many of them do not come back. That's the Tyrol joke, and Tyrolese secretaries are a heavy part of the Rothschilds' crimes. Gonna stop there and take a walk. Under the eyes of the gods, I have nothing to hide. And thank you to the religious clerics that think about their role in life and meeting their maker.